Welcome. This is the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinscoe, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, Forbes contributor, and general explorer of the service and experience space. The thing I'm really interested in is how do we create organizations that produce better outcomes for both their customers and their people. This podcast has been running since January 2011, and so we have a big archive to explore. Check out the archive at adrianswinscoe.com. That's enough from me. Let's get into the interview.
First of all, this is the next part of a series of interviews I've been doing for the Punk CX podcast here at Zendesk Relate. I am with Naomi Rankin, who is the head of global customer care at, full name is Lush, Fresh Handmade Cosmetics, commonly known as Lush. Hello, Naomi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am splendid. Can I just to give people, I mean, there's some people that may not have encountered Lush, but can you tell us a little bit about you and your role, and also kind of just give us a quick snapshot on Lush?
Yeah. So I have worked for Lush since 2011. I started off on the shop floor for 4 years, did my time, 4 Christmases, and then applied for the role of customer care. So my previous background was in the health service, and I did a lot face-to-face with patients. So I felt like this was something I could take on. Mm-hmm. And it gave me the great opportunity of moving down to Poole from Bedfordshire. So now I live by the sea, which is the best decision ever. And the reason I had to move to Poole was because Lush was founded in 1995 by 6 friends who all live in Poole, Bournemouth and Christchurch in Dorset. Mm-hmm. And the head office is still there, all the factories are there. And Lush, basically, I certainly back then was probably one of the few places that were making vegan and vegetarian cosmetics. Nothing is ever tested on animals right through the supply chain. And they have a really strong culture of being environmentally humane and animal friendly. Mm-hmm. So everything we do, certainly with products, but also with our staff and with the tech we use, mm-hmm. has to reflect those values. Yeah, but you can probably smell us on the high street before you see us.
I must say I'm not a big fan of cosmetics, kind of just generally, but I do know that if you walk past a Lush retail sort of store and the doors are open, it's an olfactory assault when you go past, because it's just like it's smashed in the face.
Certainly if you're not used to it. When you work on the shop floor, you go a bit nose blind, so you don't smell it all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's it's brilliant, and also super colourful and very noticeable and things, and lots of chalkboards as well. Yeah. In terms of signage and things, it's a very, but also I think it's a very conscious brand, and it stands up for lots of different things. Yeah. And stands up and is counted. Yeah. And I think that's really important. But I think you also said when you were talking earlier, you talked about how the ethos spreads into kind of how you treat customers. You talk about you want customers to feel like friends and family. Yeah. And I wanted to understand, how does that work in practice?
Yeah, so we started off with bricks and mortar. So the original shop, 29 High Street in Poole, is still there, and the labs are still above it, where 2 of the founders still work, or 3 still work every day and invent new products. Mm-hmm. But they used to personally know by name their regular customers, and that was always something that has gone on for a long time. I used to use Lush long before I worked there. Right. There was a forum, mm-hmm. and all the founders and loads of the senior staff were on there, as well as all the customers, and we all knew each other. Right. So, like now, I guess it's a bit like if you're in a fandom on Twitter or in Facebook, it felt like that. It felt like a fandom. Mm-hmm. And I remember taking my daughter, who's 26 now, but she was like 5 or 6, and we went to the opening of the Carnaby Street store. Mm-hmm. And Mark came and gave her a little Keep It Fluffy perfume, because she'd come with me, and her picture was in the Lush Times, and it was just like, this is amazing. And so they really took the time to notice you as people, mm-hmm. not just as money. Wallets, yeah. And then when I did my 4 years on the shop floor, the shops have regular customers, because mm-hmm. you've got maybe people who use a key product like Dream Cream or Ultra Blend because it really suits their skin, so they will always come back, and you get to know them. Mm-hmm. And also we're encouraged to say hello to everyone that comes in. So it'll always be hi. And sometimes that's just enough to start a conversation with somebody. And it might be someone who isn't normally spoken to.
Yeah.
And they're a bit, but we don't chase them. I know some shop assistants are quite friendly.
Yes.
But generally we're like, just say hello and then they'll come back to you if they need you, yeah.
But the other thing that you mentioned there, where you said you started on the shop floor and you've kind of worked up to now being head of global customer care, and that's brilliant. And you recounted a bunch of stories. The new CTO, who's newly appointed CTO, started the same and just learnt coding and tech and everything else, and now has become the CTO. The thing that you said was, which I thought was brilliant, which is not necessarily usual, is how all the team that's in the care department, customer care department, are shop floor trained.
Yes.
And also that you also told me this thing about how some of the shop floor staff can come and have a sabbatical, as it were, for 3 months, just to stay off their feet for 3 months if they just want a bit of care. And has that always been the way?
No, say before COVID, everything was like completely different, and we would probably hire externally. We'd just put out local adverts because you had to be in Poole. So we were in one office, and basically it was like Poole and Dorset, Bournemouth, come work for us, which is probably quite a specific demographic if you're familiar with Dorset. And not always easy to get people who only needed a temporary job, because our seasonal peak is, we'd want them to start in October and finish at the end of January. So there's a lot of students, or maybe like people with young children who just wanted to supplement their income. And that was fine, but it might take up to 3 or 4 weeks to give them all the product training, all the brand training and the systems training. So it was quite full on for them when they would first start. Then when COVID happened, we had the experience where we all had to go remote, but customer care wasn't allowed to be furloughed because we had to keep going, and the digital business grew because all the shops were shut. But then we also had shop staff who were furloughed and couldn't go back. They were either immunocompromised, or they were maybe pregnant, or they had people in their household, so they couldn't go back to the shop floor. And then because we need to expand, it made sense for us to try and hire internally rather than those people have to leave. So we suddenly got this new style of team where certainly in the UK, they were suddenly from like north of Scotland, and we've got team members in Wales and in Ireland as well as all over the UK. But they had this amazing product knowledge, and they'd spoken to customers and they remember what it's like. And it was just like, this is so simple. Why didn't we think of this before? Because then all you've got to do is show them how to use Zendesk, which is fortunately not rocket science, and set them up on a laptop, and they could just go. Usually they're on chat within a couple of days, as opposed to having to feed brand new people all this like lore, or this is Lush from the beginning, which is quite a lot. So it just made sense for us. So since then, what was that, 2020, since then, each seasonal period we try and hire internally, because there'll always be someone either who's part-time on the shop and wants to supplement their hours, or maybe like we had a couple examples this Christmas where it was people who've done years on the shop floor and they just thought they'd try it. And it was with the agreement of their managers, that because then if the managers know soon enough, they can hire enough temps to cover it. And sometimes they love it. Sometimes they're like, oh my goodness. And then they're like, oh, I'm going back to the shop. But it's always good to have that perspective as well, I think, because if you're too stuck in one place, you forget that there's a whole other machine going on around you.
Absolutely, and it always strikes me. I loved hearing that story, because it always strikes me that too often many businesses don't have that cross-pollination, and particularly in service industries, is that they might not have done the thing or visited the thing or experienced the thing, and yet they're trying to serve customers, and therefore that almost automatically puts an empathy gap between yourself and the customer. But I thought I would advocate more and more people to do that. It's brilliant that you've encountered it by crisis.
Accident. Oh yeah, by crisis.
By crisis, but you've gone, this is
Yeah.
great. And we formalised it.
And actually, as a result, I don't know if it was directly as a result of customer care, but since COVID, and then obviously there was that divide, we're now encouraging every member of our support teams to do at least one day a year on a shop floor.
Yeah.
And for some of our developers who've obviously got a job with us because they're developers, not because they came up through a shop.
Yeah.
That's quite a culture shock for them.
Sure.
But it's so much perspective, because if you're designing something but you have no concept of what it really means to be the end user, that's quite difficult. And our customers are quite a fan base, and they are quite, they're a specific genre of people. They care about animals, and they have strong values and thoughts about issues. So they're not always going to be, bless them, not always going to be the most technology minded, or they might be, but you have to do it in a way that's going to engage them. Yeah. Yeah.
And you mentioned Zendesk there, and I know you said that you arrived and Zendesk arrived at the same sort of time, and so you've grown up with Zendesk in that customer care environment. And I thought the interesting thing that you also said is like how you've been able to draw out data and insights that's made you into, I guess, a data-driven decision-making organization, which you go, data-driven decision organization, Lush.
Lush, I know. Yeah.
And he was like going, oh, look, there's a different side to them. I mean, can you tell me about kind of that, what you're kind of doing? Because I think that's, that might bust a few myths around what the business is about and how it goes.
I think at the grassroots level, they probably always were anecdotally data-driven, but not on paper, in that the owners were so involved in the day-to-day running of like the pool shop and then the first King's Road shop. They were there speaking to customers, so they were hearing that feedback. But obviously as the business grew, and then we've got millions of hits on the website, no one's listening to all of that or knows who those people are. They're not the ones with a local shop. So suddenly there was this gap in who are our online customers, and people who maybe go on Twitter to have a rant or post on Facebook, they might not always be genuinely constructive with their criticism. They might just be out there for a hit and an impression. So the ones that take the time to contact customer care because they've bought something that they really value and they want to be able to use, but for whatever reason something's gone wrong in that journey, like
the henna story you talked about.
Like the henna story, exactly. Then that is really valuable data, because these are the people that are using our products every day. So we need to listen to them.
Yeah.
And when I first started, it was very basic. It had just been set up. So you had some real simple types of issue. But as we grew on, we'd come, oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another one. And so we've grown it. So now we have this global form, which is, and it's been agreed by all the teams in all those markets. These are the types of issue we generally get every single month. And we have a list of all our products, and we had to go into overflow. So we now have a secondary one for discounts because we have so many products. We ran out of lines on the drop down. I think we hit 3,000, and it was like, good Lord.
Oh dear.
But people have long memories. So they'll be like, oh, bring Tramp back. That's me writing to myself, bring Tramp back. Yeah. And so like you need to have all of those. If someone's bought it in the last year, they might still come to you about it, even if it was just around for 6 months or a limited collaboration. So once we established that and we got those tags in, then convincing your agents, it's not a waste of time. I'm not just asking you to tag this to make your life miserable. There's a point. But now we've been able to show them, because then we pull these reports out and we go to the people who can make those decisions, and they do make changes and they do make improvements. We've had products maybe that were too pigmented, so we had a spate of pink children, which I personally think is not a problem, but apparently their schools did. So like you can make adjustments in the levels of the ingredients, or even if it's just how it's packaged. Originally they used to, because we don't plastic wrap our stuff. That's why our shops smell so much, because everything's unwrapped. Yeah. It's naked, as we call it. So when we were sending it out in the EcoFlow, which is popped potato starch, sometimes they'd bash together. And then unfortunately, certainly if you had a rough-handed postman, you'd end up with a box of dust. Or if it was a hot day, a box of melted massage bar studded with bits of EcoFlow, which is not what you need. So being able to bring those images that customers sent in and those stories and the numbers as well, because I always used to get pushed back with, well, what's the proportion of sales? But actually, once you've got images and you've got proper quotes from people whose lives you've ruined at Christmas, then actually the founders are not worried about, oh, it's only 2% of sales. They're worried, well, this is 30 people who aren't happy. Sure. This is one person who's had a horrible time because actually what they spent their pocket money on broke on the way home.
Sure.
And that matters, even if it's a drop in the ocean of our big sales.
Yeah.
And because I can take that information directly to them, they truly care, and then they can make those decisions. Even if finance team are in charge, I wouldn't have a look in, because it's a fraction of everyone else's great day.
But you use it to tell stories that connects people to the problems.
Totally.
And I know you then talked about sort of technology and stuff. I mean, are you starting to experiment with how do you automate that sort of tagging thing, or is it still done manually?
So we use the Ultimate ticket bot. We got it from Ultimate when they were just a partner, and now they've been acquired by Zendesk. So he's called Marvin. We named him because I'm a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fan.
There you go.
Yeah, and he.
You don't get that reference, by the way. Look it up.
Yes, you should read it. It's the best book in the world. So we first introduced using Marvin about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was. Lush doesn't have a sale or discounts throughout the year. We just have the Christmas sale because our stuff is freshly made, so we don't have backlog of stock.
Sure.
So the only time we need to clear stuff out is after Christmas, when we're not going to be selling Christmas stuff because Valentine's is here.
Sure.
So, but every Black Friday, certainly increasingly in the last few years, people would be going, doing Black Friday, where do I put my discount code? And we're like, we don't do it. No. And the staff would get so fed up. So Marvin's first job and the test of how useful he would be was to do that Black Friday with the macro and the explanation of why we as a company don't take part in it. And it was so successful. In the first week, he did 57% of all our contacts, and it was the week before Black Friday.
Nice.
And the team, who had been very hesitant before because they're like, is he taking all of our jobs? Now they were like, oh my God, thank you. They're so happy because they hadn't had to copy and paste 1 million macros for the last week.
Yeah.
So that was our first foray into automation. And of course, even if he hasn't got a reply set up, you can get him to tag. So as long as they understand the intent, can tag the ticket, can assign it to the right people, can set the priority.
Yeah.
So useful. Another great thing that they all thought was brilliant was that if someone emails in with, I want to return this or I need a refund, that kind of query, Marvin would go straight back with, that's great, we'll do that, but we need an image of the damage and your proof of purchase and your order number if you've got it, or the shop you bought it in if it wasn't online. And those are the questions usually the agents would have to ask. So it takes 3 or 4 emails to get the job done. But now they're coming into the email and all the information's there, so they could just solve it in one go.
Yeah. So but it sounds like the kind of when you're leaning into some of this kind of technology, but because the thing that occurs to me is like there's some of the technology is moving so fast, so you have got people that are going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it feels like what you're doing is you're doing almost like a series of experiments to kind of like to bring people along, and that really handles the education bit, but also the change bit. Like Trevor Noah said yesterday, he says like, well, change is great, but changing is tumultuous and terrible, sort of thing.
When we first brought Marvin on, we still had team members who'd been there for like 15, 20 years and had been there when it was mail order, and they used to answer the phone and open the envelope with the check-in and pick and pack the order themselves and take it to the post office because mail order was such a tiny part of the business. So this was a huge change. And of course, we've all seen iRobot, but at that point, no one really understood what AI meant other than the terrifying, scary stories. So of course they were scared. And we had people from North America, because it goes on Reddit and then everyone knows. And we had people in North America calling our North American team going, they're firing all your customer care team. And they're like, what? And then they'll go, I'm like, what are you talking about? And so you're having to like damage control because people just panic. But they're so empathetic. They're such a great bunch of people who have so much empathy and love looking after people. I think the flip side of that is that you worry more as well. I know that, like, sometimes when you're very empathetic, it means that you feel stuff a lot more heavily. So it is just sort of trying to allay those fears and really emphasize this is a tool for you. You're the valued member of staff. I can't replace your brain. And like, I might be able to train AI with all the stuff you know, but it can't love or show empathy or laugh. And that's what I need you to do with our customers. Because a customer might come in and have had a really bad day. And so going through an algorithm or having a chat isn't going to feel the same as someone just listening to you on the phone and then going, do you know what, I'll send you a random act. Just go and have a bath and you'll be all right. That's what happened to me. That's how I ended up at Lush. I used to work in the health service. For reasons, I needed to leave, but I hadn't had anything lined up yet. But as I'd handed in my notice, I walked into my local Lush store and the girl behind the till knew I was upset and she took the time to listen. And she suggested, we've got part-time job going. You should apply for that. And I did, and I hadn't thought of it before that point, but because she took the time, and it gave me the confidence to go, maybe I could. And then I got the job in the Milton Keynes shop and did like 2 days a week, had time with my children who were really small then, and it just really helped me get my mojo back. And so then I had the confidence to apply for customer care, and like, here we are, you know,
Brilliant.
happily ever after. But it's because that is we really want our teams to have the time to listen to people and talk to them and have conversations. And that's where the technology can help you out, not to replace them, but to take all of the gumph away. So you've got the time to do that.
But in that use of the technology, you said also something that I wanted to ask you about, because you said you're being very careful with the use of AI because of, taking a very ethical stance. Because it needs to align, what you do needs to align with the brand, with the brand values.
The first like ChatGPT and OpenAI that came out, it's open to the public and anyone can use it, but it's scraping the whole of the internet. So you've got the issues of, well, who owns that information that you're scraping? Do they know that you're using it? And then if a customer's talking to that and thinks it's real, or even if it knows it isn't, but they're telling it personal details as part of that conversation, where's that information going? How much energy is being used to generate this conversation? Huge amounts. And immediately our staff and our customers are asking us those questions. Why are you doing this? Have you accounted for that cost? And we are. We're in the middle of writing our policy about AI, and it's not finished yet because it's such a huge subject and we don't know all the answers yet. But we know that we can't get completely away from it. But also, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly and at our own pace rather than just taking something box fresh and plugging it in because it's convenient.
One last thing. I mean, you've been here in Vegas at the Relate event. You spoke on the second day, but you've been attending as a Zendesk user and stuff. And there was all these announcements, which was a bit like, at one point I felt like I had mental indigestion.
I know. I had to take screenshots of the screen because I'm not going to remember all that.
Of what you heard, what do you think, or what are you most excited about in terms of thinking, that, and I think we're going to be able to do that?
There was one really I say really exciting. I really get excited about digital security and data. So sorry if it's not floating your boat, but the governance piece about monitoring the thought process of the AI when it comes to those decisions. Because I think that's something, and I spoke to my the dean in my team who deals with all of our automations as well, and he too was very excited about that, because sometimes you set things up and then they don't give you the result and you're not quite sure why, and you don't know what you need to adjust. So that's going to be super helpful, and also hopefully will alert us to sort of red flags or whatever.
Sure.
Also, I love the new dashboards. So I'm really looking forward to playing more with the Explore.
Awesome.
And yeah, my brain's gone now.
I'd
There's
imagine.
been so much information.
I would imagine, because let me see if I get the stats right. So you're in 24 markets and across 15 different languages, and you've got another, 20 partner markets?
Yes, yeah.
So that's like more dimensions of
Yeah.
markets and stuff. And I was thinking that actually the knowledge builder sort of product, which is going to be able to build...
That was the thing.
Right, it's going to build other things and go like, across markets,
Yeah,
different sort of products, across languages,
Absolutely.
and do all
It'd
that.
be amazing, because we're trying to do that now. We want to populate it with the right information so that it can account for any question someone might ask in whatever language. So yeah, that's going to be absolutely monumental for us. Certainly for Dean, who is the one physically having to press all the buttons for me. Bless his heart. So, and like certainly in some of our smaller markets, like the language is not so accessible. Like you've always got your, oh yeah, we do it in these 10. And I'm like, but what about these ones? Because we've got customers there. So that's still important. So to be able to account for all those customers, like all those Eastern European nations, who are huge customers and so valued, and like all the Asian countries and everywhere, every country.
But to present content
that
is
they
kind
can
of,
understand.
that's in their native language.
Not always just expecting people to read English.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's all I have.
Okay.
I think it's about time we let you kind of get off and kind of like head for the bar, I imagine. But I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
I do. Thank you. Yeah.
Wow, what a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Find out more about me and the work that I do at adrianswinscoe.com. Do leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have any comments, feedback, or questions about the podcast, then feel free to send me a message to podcast@adrianswinscoe.com. Do tune in again. Thanks very much.